The Atwells have spent many years travelling to far corners of the world and have visited many places. This is the story of some of their travels in the Middle East and Arabia. The Middle East is a transcontinental region between Asia, Africa, and Europe. It includes the countries of Bahrain, Cyprus, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Turkey, the UAE, and Yemen. The country in the Middle East that we are considering now is Oman, officially the Sultanate of Oman, which is an Arab country on the southeastern shore of the Arabian Peninsula. In the late 17th century, the Omani Sultanate was a powerful empire vying with Portugal and the UK for influence in the Persian Gulf and Indian Ocean. At the peak of the 19th century, Omani influence or control extended across the Straits of Hormuz to modern-day Iran and Pakistan, and as far south as the island of Zanzibar off the east coast of Africa. Their control also extended into the mainland of Tanzania and as far south as the north of Mozambique. We are very familiar with this area because we lived in Dar es Salaam and also in Mtwara down on the border with Mozambique. There are many reminders of this time on the east coast of Africa. The most common boat to be seen on the Indian Ocean is the Arab dhow. A lot of the architecture also reflects this fact. Arabs were also slave traders on the east coast of Africa, and this memorial on the island of Zanzibar is to the slave trade. When the slave trade ended, a Christian cathedral was built over the location of the slave market. This picture of Oman, it shows an interesting anomaly, which is the little piece of the country which is, although belongs to Oman, is separated from the main part of the country by the UAE. This shows in greater detail the area called Masanda, and there is another small area called Madha, which also belongs to Oman. Masada actually forms one side of the Straits of Hormuz, which is very much in the use at present. Apparently the area of Masada is very scenic and is referred to as the Norway of the Gulf. It is very rugged, but to travel overland between it and the rest of the country, one requires a visa for the UAE. Notice that in Oman, there's a coastal strip backed by the Hagar Mountains, and beyond that, the desert. To get to Oman from Vancouver involved a 9-hour and 55-minute flight to Zurich in Switzerland, then a 6-hour and 40-minute flight to Dubai, followed by a 1-hour flight to Muscat. A prominent landmark when arriving in Muscat is this lookout in the form of an incense burner on a headland overlooking the ocean. An attractive feature of the city is this beautiful seafront corniche in Muttra, the city's old commercial centre. The pathway hugs the curve of the harbour and is dotted with shaded pavilions where one can sit and watch the waves lapping on the rocks below. It is a particularly pleasant walk in the evening when the mountains stand out starkly against the sky. Along the waterway is a Shia mosque with this rather attractive blue-tiled minaret. The walkway is popular with locals and tourists alike and a delightful place to spend time. An added attraction is an abundance of marble sculptures depicting various sea creatures. There is usually a traditional dhow, an enduring symbol of Oman anchored in the bay. Walking further west towards the old part of Muttra, there are abundance of low-rise white buildings that are very attractive. At the western end is the Muscat Gate Museum, occupying a single large room inside a restored gateway that spans the main road at the entrance to Old Muscat. Along the way, on a pair of rocky headlands, sit two Portuguese forts. They are quite unlike traditional Omani you will see elsewhere in the country, essentially just on a sliver of wall plus flanking watchtowers, squeezed into a tiny space on top of the rocks, seriously cramped but virtually impregnable. Eventually one comes to the palace area where the Sultan has one of his many palaces. The current Sultan Qaboos is a hereditary leader of the country, an absolute monarchy since 1970, and is the longest current ruler in the Middle East and the third longest reigning monarch in the world. The Al Alam Palace is the ceremonial palace of Sultan Qaboos of Oman and is located in the Old Muscat in Oman. The palace, one of 6 royal residences of the ruling monarch, has a history of over 200 years, built by the current Sultan's grandfather. The existing palace, which is a facade of gold and blue, was rebuilt as a royal residence in 1972. The national emblem of Oman is prominently displayed in many places. The magnificent modern Sultan Qaboos Grand Mosque is on the western approaches to the city and is the only one in the country that is open for non-Muslim visitors. There is room for an estimated 20,000 worshippers in the 2 prayer halls and outside areas. The mosque itself sits in a walled compound with a minaret at each corner, plus a 5th larger minaret halfway along the northern wall. It is clad in vast quantities of white and red marble. The women's musalla can accommodate 750 worshippers, while the main musalla can hold 6,500 worshippers, and in the outside areas there is room for the remainder of the worship. The carpet covering the floor of the main prayer room is the world's largest and took 400 female weavers from Iran to 4 years to make. The main hall is supported by 4 enormous pillars decorated in whites, greys, and sea green. The mihrab is a semicircular niche in the wall of the mosque that indicates the directions to the Kaaba in Mecca, and hence is the direction that all Muslims should face when praying. It is very ornate. Muslims must pray 5 times a day. The first prayer is when the light is on the horizon. The noon prayers begin when the sun is vertically in the sky. Afternoon prayers begin when the object and its shadow are of equal length. Evening prayers are a few minutes after sunset, and the night prayers begin when the sky is no longer red. Call to prayer is broadcast from the minarets of the mosques. It is a requirement to pray towards Mecca. This is more suitably dressed to go into the mosque, a long skirt covering her ankles, long sleeve, and a head covering. The sheer scale of the chandelier hanging under the dome must be seen to be believed. The enormous bejeweled light measures 45 feet tall and 26 feet wide and weighs 9 tons. Other chandeliers are equally impressive. Around the main prayer hall are long corridors with various rooms for various purposes along the way. The Muscat Opera House is Oman's premier venue for musical arts and culture, and the Sultan is a great supporter of the arts and music. In 2001, the Sultan ordered the building of the Opera House, and it was officially opened on October the 12th, 2011. It can accommodate 1,100 people and reflects unique contemporary Oman architecture.
The first performance was the opera Turandot, which was conducted by Placido Domingo. Since then, many famous artists have performed in the opera house, including Rennie Fleming, Andrea Bocelli, Yoma Ma, and a wide range of different types of performance by ballet companies, orchestras, and many Arabian artists. We are told that the marble came from Italy and the teak came from Myanmar, and it was shipped in a raw state, and Omani craftsmen did all the intricate carving.
At the rear of the building are extensive open areas with well-tended gardens. There is a quite magnificent main lobby. The ceiling is impressive with traditional Omani designs.
The main auditorium has private boxes at the side, and then in the center, on the first level, is the Sultan's box. There's a camera in the Sultan's box which transmits the performance to his palace, so that if he's not able to attend, he can still view the performance from home if he wishes. We took a tour, and this lady was our guide, and she was the most interesting person. She has lived in London and France, and also lived in Australia for a while. We had a long conversation with her while we were waiting to see if anyone else would join the tour. Eventually, a local joined us, and then a fellow from the island of Curacao who now lives in Holland. They all had interesting stories to tell and were impressed with the stories of our travels.
While we were on the tour, they were setting up the stage for the Opera Carmen, which was to be formed shortly. There are a number of lovely hotels along the coast which we like to visit. This one is called the Chennai, and this is the lobby. There are extensive grounds and lots of outside seating. A nice restaurant by a swimming pool. Private villas. A well-manicured beach. This was not the holiday season, so it was very quiet. We decided to go on a dolphin viewing cruise, and here is Moira ready to set off. And here am I in a very relaxed mood. While we were waiting to cast off, Moira was able to admire the colourful tropical fish swimming around the boat. We sailed out past some attractive watercraft, and this one of a more traditional design. We had to go a long way out into the ocean before we were surrounded by dolphins. They were very playful and soon diving and leaping around our boat. It was very difficult to photograph them because they swim so fast, and also the rocking of the boat made it very difficult. Another day we decided to take a tour to the old capital of Nizwa, about 150 kilometers inland over the Highgar Mountains. The highway cut through the mountains, and it was a very attractive drive. Always along the way there were lots of mosques of a different design. Small towns in fertile valleys along the way. Each town has its own design of gate. Then it was time for a refreshing break. Our guide was a charming fellow who gave us lots of information on the culture and all the points of interest along the way. There were 2 other people on the tour with us. Close by were some locals enjoying conversation and coffee and dates, while Moira checked out some of the local wares.
The dominant style of Omani architecture is not colonial, neither is it residential or mercantile. It is the intimidating edifice that bears testimony to centuries of turmoil, the fort. Oman is sometimes called the country of 1,000 forts. An instant picture conjured up in the mind's eye at the mention of Omani is a fortress, majestic, forbidding, symbols of ascendancy. These bastions complicate the landscape as if painted by a master stage designer.
The Omani flag flies from the ramparts. Some artifacts give an idea of what life was like when the fort was in its heyday. Another refreshment break, this time with coffee and dates. Across the valley, another fort in another town. Oman has a very ancient irrigation system of such sophistication and complexity that it has earned UNESCO heritage status. Comprising of channels cut into the mountainside, running across miniature aqueducts and double-decking through tunnels, this irrigation system is responsible for the most of the oasis in Oman. The precious water is diverted firstly for drinking wells and then for mosque cleaning areas, washing areas, and at length to the plantations. At some points along its way are these bathhouses. One can go in, pull the curtain across, and wash in the water as it flows by. Here some locals enjoy the water in the washing channel. A spectacular journey which we've done twice is down through the country from the north down to Darfur and the port city of Salalah. This involves an 800-kilometer journey through the desert in the area that's known as the Empty Quarter. Along the way are rest areas where most of the traffic stops. There's a mosque and also usually a supermarket where you can get coffee and food and have a break. One of the attractions in Salalah is the magnificent Sultan Qaboos Mosque. When we got to Salalah, we rented a car and went off exploring the surrounding countryside. This part of the country, which is down towards the border with Yemen, is very rugged and very spectacular countryside to drive through with wadis and deep valleys. Here a road descends into a valley and a very spectacular drive to drive down this road. You're very likely to come on camels wandering on these roads. Don't say you haven't been warned. There are also lovely beaches to walk on and explore and take long walks. This is the land of the frankincense tree. The resin of the tree is bled and is noted for its aromatic values in perfumes and has been traded in Arabia for 6,000 years. After a spectacular drive out of Salalah, one comes to Job's tomb. This is one of the alleged burial sites of the prophet Job. Job is a central figure in the book of Job in the Bible. Another place worth visiting is the Khor Roi, an ancient archaeological site in which are the remains of an outpost of the kingdom founded in the 1st century BC, and it was inscribed as part of the World Heritage Site of the land of frankincense in the year 2000. That's the story of some of our travels in Oman. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any comments, please add them and then stand by for further travels in Arabia.